Hello everybody, welcome back to the Backyard Pirate Ship. Today's going to be a huge episode. We're going to be finally pouring the ballast keel that I've been talking about for so long. It's going to be a lot of concrete and the boat's going to fall over, so stick around to the end of the video to see all that happen. But starting off here, we're just going to be finishing up the last of the floor timber bolts that we need to do to get the ballast keel poured in place. Here I am just bolting it onto the bottom of the boat. And so now we're going to start removing the floor timbers. The reason I put these in place is because I needed to know exactly where the bolts were going to go, and the bolts need to go through the bottom of the keelson and cast in the concrete ballast keel, so I needed to put these in place. But now I'm going to go ahead and pull all these off so that we can lay the boat on its side and get to pouring. Getting these off here was not an easy task. Those holes were really tight and the bolts did not want to come back out, so I had to do this whole thing where I put a pry bar under there and use this strap to get a bunch of leverage and these steel blocks to get up underneath it. It was not an easy task, and I had to do this for all 10 or so of the floor timbers that I had in place at the time. A little bit of prying, a little bit of wiggling, and eventually they all came loose. That was a huge pain in the ass, but I got all of the floor timbers off of the bolts. You can see them back there sticking up out of the keel. The whole reason I installed the floor timbers on top of the bolts is because I needed them in place, and I needed to know exactly how long it needed to be in order to cast the ballast keel on top of the bolts. So they're going to be stuck in the concrete ballast keel. But the next and final step before we get to actually tipping this thing over and casting it is going to be to make and drill the ballast keel bolts. These are going to be much bigger. In fact, I've got one of them right here. Let me flip the camera around here. This is one of the floor timber bolts. They're 3/4 in diameter, and this is actually station number 7, I think. But that is a ballast keel bolt. That's 1 inch in diameter, and they're made out of stainless steel. There's going to be 8 or 10 of these across the length of the boat to hold on the massive honk of concrete and steel that goes at the bottom that makes up the ballast keel. So, I got a whole bunch of these I got to get making and drill a whole bunch of big holes through the boat. See you in a little bit. Let me tell you, working with stainless steel in this big round form on the lathe was one of the most challenging things I've had to do so far for this project. Stainless steel work hardens as you're cutting it, so it just wreaks havoc on your tools. I went through so many threading inserts doing all these bolts. I even ground my own high-speed steel bits, and that just dulled instantly. These work harden so bad, it's so difficult to actually get threads cut into here. If you even hesitate for a second, boom, it's hard, you're done. Cut it off, start over again. I will never work with stainless steel again if I don't absolutely have to for the rest of this project. I'm going to try to get all the bolts pre-cut so I don't have to do this again. I'm sure there are people out there who could have threaded this in one pass on their lathes who are probably better machinists than I am, but you know, I don't claim to be a machinist. I'm just a guy with a lathe in his garage trying to build a boat, so I did the best I could, but man, stainless steel just sucks. Thankfully, the smooth outer finish made these a little bit easier to get in than even the smaller floor timber bolts. These bolts extend down past the bottom of the keel so that they are cast in the ballast keel about halfway through. Sometimes in life, the right tool for the job just ain't big enough, and you gotta go with what works. Alright, no replacement, like good old brute force and a big ass cast iron pipe wrench. Break that wrench, bitch. Remember, kids, all of life's problems can be solved with brute force and cast iron. Whew. Oh, that's hot. Now we're starting to clean up the area, and we're finally going to get this thing flipped over. I picked probably the worst weekend in the world to try to pour this ballast keel because it rained the entire time. Just watch my shirt in these next couple of clips, you'll see how wet it really was out there. So this was
a really stupid thing to do. I tried to lay the thing down by myself without any kind of real plan, and if you watch my face here, it actually lands right on my shoulder and hurt my shoulder pretty bad. Ouch. So I kind of had to just toss it down and fell on my ass there. And it didn't really occur to me at the time that I was doing this, but that is the last time I'm ever going to be able to move the entire boat by hand without any kind of assistance, because after this, it's going to weigh a few thousand pounds more. Anyways, here we are installing the aft deadwoods. These go directly behind the ballast keel, and these are basically like sacrificial pieces of wood. If the boat were ever to run aground or against the dock or anything, these pieces will go first before the concrete ballast keel, and these are a lot easier to replace. These just get a couple of long iron nails holding them in place. Yeah, look at my shirt now. It's been raining the entire time. I've been doing this all day. And here we are building the mold for the concrete. This is made out of the same boards I've used to make the rest of the keel, so they're the same width, and they're just on some plywood and on top of there to hold the bottom of the ballast keel up nice and flat. There you can see how the bolts extend past the bottom and get cast into the keel. And here we go, first bag of concrete. With a cheap mixer from Harbor Freight that worked okay. Had to stop and fix it a couple times, but you get what you pay for. First bucket out of like 1,000. Magnificent. Here you can see I have all the steel laid out that's going to go inside the ballast keel, because concrete only has about 250 pounds per cubic meter. It needed to be more dense than that, so I added all of this steel in there to give the ballast keel even more weight than it already would have had if it was just concrete. And of course, having the steel in there just makes it stronger overall. A couple long C-channel beams, some I-beams, a bunch of just big random chunks of cut off steel that I've collected over the years. Some horseshoes for luck, brake calipers to help the boat stop, whatever I could find. I am no concrete man. I'm sure there are many people out there who could do this a lot better than I can, but I did my best here.
And there you have it. 61 bags of concrete. A few thousand pounds, a lot of steel. I've been thinking about this for a long time. I've been talking about the ballast keel constantly for the past 2.5 years that it's taken me. Oh, there's all the bags of concrete. Past 2.5 years that it's taken me to get to this point. A lot of people might have done it faster. Salt and Tar, they had poured their ballast keel within the first 6 months, but they quit their jobs and made building the boat their entire life. I've got a day job. I travel a lot. I don't have all the time in the world to work on this, but I'm still going to get it done. I'm going to get it done at my own pace. If it takes me 10, 20, 30, 50 years, that's what it is. It's going to get there.
And a week or two later, the concrete has set for the most part, and we're going to start lifting this thing back up. Very slowly with a couple of 20-ton bottle jacks. And once I get to a certain point, I switch over to a 5-ton chain fall attached to the tree over there. Try to pull the top end over.
All right. So, abrupt cut there from me just barely starting to lift it to this. Sorry, I didn't get a lot of that on camera, but to say the least, it didn't go exactly as planned. It got pretty sketchy there, pretty dangerous for me to be doing this alone, and it fell over, which is not ideal. The keel did take a little bit of damage. I got to redo the front section there. There's a couple of cracks. I'm going to have to fill those, but that's no problem. Concrete can be repaired. Just the nice part about having a concrete ballast keel. But let's talk about what happened. So started to pick it up, and as you might have seen right at the end there, the aft end started to slide. And for some reason, I didn't anticipate that being as big of a problem as it was. Maybe just because it was up on that plywood that caused it to slide more. But basically, I had to keep pulling it until it was completely off of that plywood and then pick it back up again. And at that point, it was on such unlevel ground that it fell over. And so I had to pull it back into place and then pick it back up again. And that's pretty much where we are. Once I got it back stabilized, I picked up the front end and got it onto these blocks. So it's no longer on that cradle. The cradle kind of collapsed in the middle of that, by the way. And I got some stabilizers on it now so it can't possibly fall over again. But overall, though it didn't go according to plan, I would say pretty big success. Ballast keel is cast. This thing weighs probably 6,500 pounds now, total. And this is great. I've been talking and thinking about the ballast keel for a really long time, and I can't wait to keep going on this. I want to try to get a little bit more done this year. I don't know how much that'll be because it's going to start getting colder out here. But, yeah, check that out, guys. Ballast keel. Big part of the boat done. Thank you all so much for watching. Stick around next time. We'll get those floor timbers back on, maybe get some frames raised. We'll definitely finish up the aft end there and get the stern post on. We'll get the stem back on there so it doesn't have that big fish mouth. Actually, I'm going to do that right as soon as I stop recording here. And, thank you guys so much for watching. Like, subscribe, comment, whatever. Bye.